breathing hard on the mic last time. I was like, damn, is that a hurricane coming? Jackson got a booger.
This movie doesn't deserve notes.
I actually came to that exact same conclusion while we were watching the movie. I had my little book in front of me, and I had it open, and I was about to write. So, like when the movie started, right? Like the last trailer ended, and then it went black, and then you saw Hawkeye, whatever, with the bow. The nerd next to me was like, "Silence." And that was what kicked off my movie-going experience.
He said silence?
Yeah.
Like to everybody?
Like, yes, as in he was commanding the theater to be silent because the movie had begun.
Some guy sitting next to you did this.
The guy sitting directly to my left.
Yeah, fuck.
He wasn't like aiming it at anyone in particular.
No, not at anyone in particular. He was just saying, hey, everyone, please respect my movie-going experience. I'm the only one who's been looking forward to this, so please don't ruin it for me.
He wanted everyone to be able to hear him clapping the whole time.
Yes, and hear his oh, wait. Not just yet. Hello. Welcome to episode 39 of To Be Honest. I'm Addison.
I'm Jackson.
And this is Thanos. And we saw Avengers Endgame.
Bring me that ass, boy.
You can call me Josh Brolin.
Yeah. There you go. Well, that's, it's Thanos, Josh Brolin.
You didn't make that joke, I did.
Is this a good time to ask if I'm in the shot?
You're in the shot.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we made sure. Didn't we?
We'll never know. There's no way we can find out.
If you're sitting anywhere close to how I was sitting in that chair, then you're in the shot.
Okay.
If I'm not in the shot, we'll have to invent some sort of time
All right,
machine.
Josh is going to check. So, real quick, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to do something we've never done before. And we're going to do about like a 10-15 minute episode, completely spoiler free. Then we're going to break. And then we're going to really get into the meat of this movie.
We're going to go for the head.
So we have it was okay. And then Joshua, what did you think of this movie?
Just in like one word or less, or because less of a word.
I guess we'll expound on that. Or we're just doing general impressions.
General impression
quickly
is not pleased.
Not pleased. Wow. Okay, so we've got an okay. We've got a not pleased.
Okay is fine. I guess okay is okay with me.
I'd have to.
Okay.
Unfortunately, settle in with the crowd and say that it was okay.
Oh, okay, so we all agree, so we could shut it off.
Yeah, I think that's it.
So much for 15 minutes.
That's it. It was okay. Go see if you like this shit. Don't watch it if you don't like this shit.
Well, Addison, why did you think it was just okay?
So there were things about this movie that I really liked, and then there were things about it that were just so average and so expected for me that like it lost its ability to surprise me at a certain point. And unfortunately, that was like probably 15 minutes into the second act, probably, that I felt like its cards were on the table and I pretty much understood exactly what I was going to be watching.
The direction was laid out pretty obviously.
Yes. Now, how would you guys rank this? Because I'm curious, how would you rank it amongst all of the Marvel movies, 22 that there are now? Where would this fall? And also, I guess it would be important to say what else would be included. Like, I don't know if you're in your top three, just to put it into some context.
Well, I'll start probably with my top three, which would be Thor Ragnarok, the first Iron Man, and then the first Avengers, probably a tie between the first Avengers and Captain America: Civil War.
And is that like in like a 1, 2, 3 order? So like at the very top is Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, I think so. Not getting too deep into it, but Thor Ragnarok to me is two different movies. I really like the comedic side of that movie when it's basically like a Tim and Eric skit for half of it.
It's courtesy of Taika Waititi, the director, who did the wonderful What We Do in the Shadows. Okay, and then
how does this movie rank? I would say probably somewhere in the middle, maybe even actually towards the bottom.
Towards the bottom. Okay. And Joshua, I mean, I know you don't. Did you have something else to say?
No.
I know you're not the world's biggest Marvel fan.
Second biggest.
But I know you have seen at least 3 of these movies because I've seen 3 of them with you. So.
Yeah, there's 22 movies. Just to piss off Jackson, Captain Marvel's in my top 3. I don't know where.
That does piss me off.
Yeah, I know. Maybe the first Iron Man. Maybe the. I know people like to shit on it, but I kind of liked Age of Ultron. I went through a period where I tried to watch as many before I got exhausted of the Marvel movies, and I got to 3. And I watched Age of Ultron, and I was like, oh, that's unique. I knew I recognized it as a bad movie, but I think it was up there. So those are my 3 movies. This one ranks, I don't know. I mean, at the lower end as well for me.
Okay.
I guess.
So for me, it's pretty simple. It's Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel. Okay.
I see you're wearing your Captain Marvel shirt tonight.
I am wearing my Captain Marvel shirt tonight. Sadly, no nerd tears were shed over my shirt as I was hoping. I kind of have to agree. Iron Man for sure, because that was when I still cared about this shit in like any real capacity. And
well, that was when they figured out the formula.
Yeah, well, and it was like, oh, Iron Man, who gives a fuck about Iron Man? And like, who knew that it would jump off this, incredible franchise?
Right.
And then the first Avengers for sure as well. I liked what Joss Whedon brought to that movie. I feel like even though he's still kind of like a jokester, I feel like he has just a slightly better grasp on humor than what we see in this film and films before it. 3 is really difficult for me to pick.
You'd pick Captain Marvel based on your reaction to Captain Marvel.
Almost Captain Marvel, but honestly, I think I might say Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Oh, ooh. I forgot that was in there. Okay, I push out the Age of Ultron and put Spider-Man in there.
Spider-Man really made me laugh, which is like, but not in like a that was like cynical and self-aware and meta. Like I felt like there was actual humor in there that had like setups and punchlines and everything. So that would be my top 3, and then I would rank this also in the lower half. And definitely below Infinity War.
Okay.
Which I would say is probably my top 5.
Yeah, I was going to say Infinity War was pushing for me as well. So that, I guess, maybe in broad strokes, what did this movie have that the first, I guess, ending chapter of Avengers, the Infinity War, what did this movie not have that Infinity War had, is what I'm trying to say.
An interesting villain.
I know, right? Thanos is incredibly shallow in this movie.
I almost felt insulted a little bit, to where they were like, "Oh, you really liked Thanos in the first movie? Okay, well then we're gonna write like 4 lines of dialogue for him that basically sum up everything he talked about,
like a skeleton of his like motivations
in much greater detail. In the first movie, we're just gonna have him be that. So that was the big disappointment for me. Number 1, and then 2, the other big disappointment for me is, and this almost verges on spoiler territory, but it was very expected. Everything that happened in this movie, I was not surprised by, whereas Infinity War found a way to surprise me at least a few times watching it. Especially the ending, obviously. Mm-hmm. It was spoiled for me, but when it was spoiled for me, I was like, "Oh wow, that's kind of ballsy. I didn't expect them to do that."
Well, most people, like, when just like general predictions, they were able to hit a lot of these plot points. So yeah, there was not a lot of surprises, I would say.
No, I actually predicted the thing with Ant-Man back on the Ant-Man podcast.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so if you're a hardcore fan, which no one is, go back, listen to it, and you'll be like, God damn.
We're like touching the spoiler tag.
I know,
we're
like putting a toe over the line, and then we're like, nope, getting back.
I don't remember, Josh. Did you like Infinity War?
I do want to say real quick, and I want to hear Josh's answer, but I want to say that this episode is still a little special to me because the first episode we ever did was on Infinity War.
That's right. Yeah. That was,
basically
no one's seen that or heard that
because the audio quality was so bad.
Yeah, almost completely unlistenable. Yeah.
Yeah, is it even up anywhere? It's not on SoundCloud, is it?
It's not on SoundCloud. I got to figure out a way to retrieve those files. But anyway, so
maybe we'll do a flashback.
We could. I might
insert. No, not insert flashback.
Maybe in the long episode with spoilers.
Okay.
So
can we get Josh's answer, please?
So Infinity War, Josh, go.
Well, it didn't. Infinity War was. I don't remember what I said in the. Oh yeah, I don't remember what I said when we watched it originally.
I think it was.
Yeah. I was in another room.
He was actually outside a window yelling in.
Let me on.
I was kind of surprised. Yeah. I watched it again recently because Jackson has it playing on loop, and I just have to be around sometimes. So.
Dun, 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 dun.
It's like, it's
how you go to
7
sleep
in the morning.
How else do you guys wake up and fall asleep at night?
But when I watched it this past time, it was very disappointing, and
yeah, you were shitting on it.
I did not like it, and so I think I don't like it. And
so this is just 6 hours of torture for you. These two movies.
I mean, I wasn't miserable. I've kind of felt like I was transported. In Infinity War, I felt like I was just like, oh, this is a nice little. My whole brain just shut off, and I didn't even have any control over that.
Do you like and dislike them for the same reasons?
Yeah. Well, this one, it was for Endgame. It just felt very safe. And I didn't have any sort of there was no real tension and no stakes. And the way the plot unfolds, like you said, it's very expected and almost to the point where you're like, wait, there's no way that they're just going to roll out with this. Wow, there's going to be an amazing twist at the end. Because this is way too easy of a film if they do it this way.
Well, so I think the thing is they were trying to be, they thought they were more clever than they are because the mechanism through which they kind of correct things is such a fucking cop-out, easy way to tell a story, and they think that by telling some self-aware jokes about that it excuses it, and us as an audience are going to be like, oh, you're right, but that's okay, let's just go with it.
Right. Well, this film is definitely a goodbye, and I did not it was so self-aware of the fact that it was treating an audience that it didn't really feel like a film. It just felt like, here's a chance for you to experience these characters, and it's not like a film how it's self-contained in a vacuum. These characters are real. They don't have no idea. There's a fourth wall. There's no experience on the outside of it for an audience. It's just a film happening there in a vacuum. This film definitely felt like it's you gotta have these moments, you gotta have these arcs, and have these payoffs because the audience desires it. And so it's not really a movie to me. Infinity War didn't really feel like that, so I think there's a difference in those two movies. They feel like there was something to be gained for these characters and lost for these characters, rather than we are a participant in the film actively as it's happening, as opposed to our reactions to it or what makes the film good or bad.
Well, it's the onslaught of Thanos in Infinity War is menacing. You're like, holy shit, this guy stands a chance to...
He's a force to be reckoned with.
To do this thing.
Yeah. He's throwing the moon.
But with this one, I mean, I think it's just by virtue of the fact that it's a second part, and it's a superhero movie, so you're not going to walk out of the theater disappointed because, one, Disney would never, ever, ever, ever let that happen. Have a disappointing or unfulfilling climax to the average fan. But also just by the nature of storytelling, we know that there has to be that conclusion, that denouement.
Sure, yeah, there has to be an ending, and I understand that, but at the same time, maybe have something that is meaningful for a story.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, and that's what makes
And
like
usually,
some of the
usually a story requires stakes, especially a film that is like action packed,
which they do try to establish, right? In the first like 30, 45 minutes.
Sure, yeah.
There is like an interesting premise that's set up, and I was like, oh, cool. I didn't expect this to go this way, and I'm intrigued. And then from there, I felt like it devolved.
What time are we at?
What did you think?
Well, for me, compared Infinity War to this movie, I feel like Infinity War actually balanced the huge cast of characters better. I think that this movie,
I was surprised that we didn't. All right, you know what? We're fucking incapable, I think, of discussing.
Wait. Let's have a nice break. Because the video's gonna end.
We will. So let's just we're gonna come back, okay, after a little potty break, with our full impressions of the movie. But let's assign like a numerical score for this movie. What would you guys give it?
I would give it a light, maybe a strong 5. I was about to say light 6, but I think strong 5 is more appropriate.
2.5. No, it's not. It's
25%.
Okay, I want to say that it's a well-made movie from a technical standpoint. It looks very good. At no point did I feel it was cheap at all. Because they put like $18 billion in this movie. So I give it a 4 then. If you're giving it a 5, and I think you feel stronger about this movie, I think I have to give it under, so 4.
You have to give them a little credit for there's a daunting task to be had here, where they had to bring this all together. And
as a piece, it's like, yeah, huge. But I think like if you put everything into context, for me, it's still a 4.
Okay.
So I feel like kind of like I was going to say 6, and I wasn't necessarily going to qualify it with light or heavy. I was going to say 6. That might be a little bit too generous, but I think I'm going to stick with that. It's a 6, because you do have to meet it on the merits of it being like, technically pretty incredible at moments.
It's a competently made movie.
Competently made movie.
Overall, yeah.
For it being 3 hours long, it didn't feel necessarily 3 hours long all the time. There were moments where it did. But ultimately, I think what you can say about this movie is that, and I've already said it, is that it's exactly what you expect it to be. It's not going to surprise you, perhaps, in the way that Infinity War did. But you're not going to be like, well, that was a waste of $10 and 3 hours of my life.
Right, yeah.
$10? Where are you going to buy a movie ticket for $10?
Well, if you're part of the Cinemark membership club,
Don't
then
give them any fucking
good point.
You hate
time.
that shit. You hate us promoting people that don't pay us any money. So anyways, if you haven't seen the movie, I guess stop now. Because we're going to be getting into the very, very deep, the nooks and the crannies of this motherfucker.
Goodbye, we'll see you on the other side.
We going to be on them crannies, on the nooks.
Bring me that ass, boy.